Manchester United have met with the agent of Kang-in and are keeping a close eye on Lille striker Jonathan David. United are clear that they do not want Jadon Sancho back this summer. Heaven injury update and match reaction. All this plus more in today's video as we run through all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video. And let's jump straight into it. So firstly, let me know how you're feeling today after yesterday's result and performance. You know, it's nice to go in at the international break with a win, a convincing win as well. A couple of, couple of players maybe with a bit of a confidence boost as well. I think we've had a decent week in terms of results and performances as well, which is a nice kind of feeling going in. It would have been absolutely miserable as sin if we'd gone in without a decent performance and a decent result against Leicester, but it gives you something to kind of work off and think about heading into we've got 2 weeks now of no Man United, which might be a blessing in disguise actually for the squad and stuff as well. But give us your thoughts and your comments below. Let me know what you thought about the game and about the match. I kind of felt it was a really controlled performance. We were starting to look better in the shape. I thought our pressing looked a lot more better as well. First half was still a little bit kind of, I felt our passing was still a little bit wayward. Second half, much better. Felt like and Leicester are poor, let's be honest. They're a poor Premier League team, but still, we've been smashed up by poor Premier League teams this season already. So I kind of felt it was a performance where we got the job done and didn't really need to kind of overexert ourselves as well. And I felt that a lot of the players looked knackered. And I think Amorim said that in the match afterwards as well, to his credit. Only real negatives for me, I felt Eriksen had a poor game, apart from his effort that hit the inside of the post. But apart from that, and the only other thing was the injury to Haven, Ayden Heaven, so I genuinely wish him all the best. Like, how jinxed are we with injuries at the moment? I thought he was having an outstanding game as well before that horrific injury. It looked really, really bad. They obviously didn't show the replay on the TV as well, but just to kind of go through, Ruben Amorim said it's hard about his injury. He said it's hard to know because we have to evaluate during the week. He already played well against Arsenal and Real Sociedad. Today, for me, was the most difficult game for him because we expect him to relax a little bit, but he was so focused. So Amorim kind of saying, I was super impressed with Ayden Heaven, thinking that maybe he would take his foot off the gas a little bit, which I think shows a little bit more around his kind of character as well. But on the injury, he said we have to evaluate during the week. He's a young kid and he doesn't know how to explain what he's feeling. It's hard for us to know. He's a bit calm now and we have to assess in the week as well. So apparently he was having difficulty explaining to the physios and the doctors and stuff actually what he felt had kind of happened, which is fair enough for being a young kind of player. However, Ty Marshall with the Manchester Evening News is a really credible source saying that Ayden Heaven had left the King Power Stadium with his foot in a protective boot, but he was walking unaided. So apparently no crutches or anything like that as well. So that's a positive sign, considering the fact that, I was thinking that's his like a potential leg break, or, it didn't look very good on first glance. And when I watched the replay back as well, when you watch the kind of highlights, it replays that kind of moment. It didn't look the best. It looked like his foot got stuck in the ground. And then Andy Mitten said that Ayden Heaven walks out of the stadium on a foot brace, but walking, which is positive, I think, as well. Hopefully it's nothing too serious because we are genuinely jinxed when it comes to injuries, specifically this season as well. Do you know what I mean? We've just obviously brought in Heaven to replace Lissandro, and then if he's out for a long time as well, that'll be a big kind of blow. But, I thought there were plenty of positives on the game as well. I thought Højlund and Garnacho finally breaking their goal-scoring duck. Garnacho, for me, is playing much better on the right-hand side, which is forcing him to kind of pass and not constantly cutting inside and shooting. Although yesterday he was shooting quite a lot. Actually, was passing less. But I think he's massively benefiting from that position change as well, putting him on the right. I like him on the right-hand side. And then Højlund, to his credit, looked much better in the last couple of games, where he stopped trying to get involved in fights all the time and is just playing to his strengths, which is something Amorim did say in a recent interview actually about Højlund, saying it's clearly something that they've been working on with him as well. Obviously, Onana started. There were reports yesterday before the game that maybe he would be ill. Apparently, it was conjunctivitis, which had cleared up in order for him to kind of play as well. I seen a funny comment actually saying that Onana couldn't even catch flu, which I thought was quite funny. And then obviously it was nice to see. So obviously Højlund and Garnacho get their goals. Hopefully that can be a bit of a confidence booster for those, because they've both not scored like 20 odd plus games, which is insane considering how many games they've kind of played as well. And then just shout out to I thought Harry Amas. Nice to see him get his debut and come on the pitch as well. I thought that was a nice thing to see as well. On that, he said, first of all, it's his birthday, so it's a special day. We have to understand they're so lucky to play for Manchester United. At the same moment, I have so much fun putting young kids to play as well. So that shows that Amorim is kind of all about the youth, and hopefully that's going to be the first of the sign of things to come as well, because I think there were some positives in bringing the kind of young players on. And just on the I thought Toby Collier did well as well. Second half, won 100% of his ground duels and 100% of his aerial duels against Leicester City today. So fair play to Toby Collier. And then the man of the moment, again, Bruno Fernandes, another outstanding display. I really like him playing in that deep role, I think he's it forces him to be less petulant and more controlled on the ball. And I think Amorim did say beforehand that one of the things that he struggles with, Bruno, is he tries to do everything himself. And I think if you're playing him deeper, it's forcing him to try to trust the other players and give them the ball a little bit. And obviously he's scoring goals and still getting assists from that deeper role as well. I actually kind of like him in that position as well. Deservedly man of the match, 2 assists and a goal, was absolutely everywhere. As well, so fair play to Bruno Fernandes. And check this out. So Bruno Fernandes recorded his 50th assist for Man United in the Premier League, becoming the 6th player to score 50 plus goals and provide 50 plus assists in the competition after Wayne Rooney, Giggs, Scholes, Cantona and Beckham. So he is up there with some pretty decent players in terms of goals and assists. I mean, obviously Wayne Rooney, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes had a really kind of long career at United as well. Eric Cantona retired earlier than kind of most people normally do. And David Beckham was obviously moved on while he was still fairly young as well. But, I think another positive to kind of take from that as well is, like, I hate the international break, right? I can't stick it. It's going to absolutely suck for the next 2 weeks. But I think it's come at a good time for us. We're going to have a couple of players that can have a rest. So Xerxes didn't play because he's obviously played a lot of minutes recently and was at the kind of limits. Amorim did say in his press conference actually after the game that there's a lot of players that are close to the line when it comes to how many minutes they can play and stuff. So hopefully, the international break will do us some good, because we've got potentially some players that could be returning. Obviously, we'll need to wait and see what happens with Heaven's injury, but Yoro is expected to be back. Maguire's expected to be back. Mount's expected to, obviously he is back, but he's got a couple more weeks now to gain his fitness. Potentially Luke Shaw could be back as well. There's talk that Kobe Mainu might be back as well. There are some murmurings that Amad Diallo's not far away from a comeback as well. So all of a sudden, going into like a really big kind of run of fixtures, because we've got some horrific fixtures coming up as well. It'll be really nice to get some young players back. Obviously Dorgu's going to be not suspended as well, so it's come at a good time. As shit as this next 2 weeks going to be, I think it's kind of came at the right moment for us, because our next 5 games are Forest away, City home, Lyon away, Newcastle away, and then Lyon at home as well. That's a really tough run of 5 fixtures, so I think it's good to get those players back, because we are going to need to rotate, because we've got some difficult fixtures. But then also it's nice that we've kind of started to see a little bit more as well. And then the final shout out I just want to give is to Matthias de Ligt. I thought he was absolutely outstanding yesterday as well. Like that last ditch kind of block was immense. It looks like he was just battling. What an absolute warrior he is as well, and he's not bad for somebody who's a soft defender, according to some people out there. I thought he was absolutely immense as well. But overall, slow, like there's signs of things to come. I think there's a bit more positivity around United at the moment. Obviously, the performances do help with that as well. But I do think that we're starting to slowly kind of see things come together. So there was a couple of moments where you watch and you think, oh, okay, I can see that they've been working on that as well. So we're starting to slowly kind of get there, and it does just take time. And obviously, Amorim was right. There's going to be some pain, and it does take time to kind of do this. But I think there's definitely signs of progress, and long may that continue as well. Because as I just shown you, we've got some difficult fixtures ahead. But yeah, it's nice to go into the international break with a win, and after having the week we did. I thought good performance against Arsenal, should and could have probably won that game. Obviously, the Real Sociedad victory as well, that was an outstanding performance. And then yesterday, not quite as good, but still a good performance, and definitely showing that we are heading in the right direction. But overall, let me know what you think down below in the comments. Be interesting to hear your thoughts on the game. Right, let's go through some transfer news. So Jeremy Frimpong remains one to watch in the summer. The Dutch fullback could leave Leverkusen in the summer, with many clubs interested. The clause into his contract is worth fee around 40 million euros. So we're starting to get a lot of it's more online chat, I would say, regarding Jeremy Frimpong. Obviously, we had the blow about missing out on Giovanni Kenda with him going to. So I do think it's a little bit of people kind of assuming that, maybe Frimpong will become a viable target with us not going for Kenda. And I could see that, if you're going to go and get a right wing back, you might as well go and get one of the best in the world, which is Jeremy Frimpong. It's just we've not had that much credibility with him. 40 million euros would be a good deal as well. Are we in the right position, though, if there's going to be, other clubs interested in him? Are we going to be at the kind of focal point? Are we in that position where, these sort of players are going to want to come to United at the moment? Would remain to be seen. But I'd want to see a bit more credibility. It just feels a bit too convenient, the Frimpong kind of talk at the moment, because it's like, oh, well, we haven't got Dorgu, so let's link United with another kind of right wing back. And I would take him. I would take Frimpong at United for sure. I think he's an outstanding player, but does he fit the kind of model that we're looking for? Can he play, in different positions, in different systems as well? Remember, Omar Barada was saying the other day that he wants to players that can play in a couple of different positions, and I'm not sure Frimpong can play, in various different positions. You could maybe play right wing and right fullback, I suppose, in a different system, but is that his strength? I'm not entirely convinced, but would definitely be an interesting option. And like I said, though, it's more kind of online talk at the moment than it is anything kind of concrete, in my opinion. But I'll bring you any updates if they come out. Now, this was an interesting story. So Matteo, really, really good kind of source, was spot on in the January transfer window, works closely now with Romano. He was leaking stories in January ahead of Romano and Ornstein, so definitely somebody that I would kind of pay attention to. And as I mentioned, I think he's got some kind of program or some kind of links with Fabrizio at the moment. Has the following to say: Manchester United met with Spanish agent Javier Garrido in England this week. He represents PSG's Kang-in, Real Betis's Abdi, Valencia's Javi Guerra, Barcelona's Inaki Pina, and Real Madrid's Jesus Fortier, amongst others. So there's some really interesting names in that kind of list. Obviously, Kang-in is a player that we were heavily linked with in January when we had all the talk about potentially Rashford going to PSG, and then Kang-in was a player that we were linked with. 24-year-old attacking midfielder, can play like as a kind of winger or one of the inside 10 positions. Not having the best of times, or not getting that many games at the moment with PSG, so that could be potentially one to keep an eye on. Javi Guerra is a name that we've been linked with before as well, because I remember a few times, not so much recently, but in the last 18 months, I remember his kind of named midfielder, young up and coming developmental midfielder, is very highly regarded as well. Abdi from Real Betis could be one as well. Obviously, Anthony, could there be some sort of deal done there? He's another kind of wide player that can potentially play in the inside inside, kind of like an attacking player, basically 23 years old. So that's one to pay attention to. And then the others I don't know too much about. Pina is a goalkeeper from Barcelona, 26-year-old. So for those that are wanting to replace Onana, that could be one to kind of potentially keep an eye on and pay attention to. I personally would do that as well. And then Jesus 14 is a young right back, but amongst others. So that's really interesting from Matteo that United have met with the agent who represents some of those players. And again, it might be putting the feelings out just to kind of say, okay, what would like just to understand the wages. It might not be anything kind of concrete, but but some interesting names on there as well. And again, these are the sort of signings that I could see United making above the Osmans and the other kind of names that we get linked with. These sort of players that would be kind of relatively well scouted, would fit the system. Do you know what I mean? Relatively unknown or plucked from like different kind of, obviously not Real Madrid, but these sort of the type of players I could see United kind of going for, a little bit under the radar sort of signings. But yeah, some interesting names on there. Do you know what I mean? Kang-in is definitely a player that, like I said, we were heavily linked with in January. So could be one to keep an eye on. Let me know what you think, though, in the comments. Let me know if you know more about the players and do you think there would be good fits. Let me know if you can kind of see any of those kind of coming into the team. Give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. It'll be interesting to hear your opinions. And another player which might please some of you that we've been linked with again is Jonathan David. I would take Jonathan David as a free transfer, but Manchester United are keeping a very close eye on Lille striker Jonathan David. He will be a free agent at the end of the season, and United want to improve their attack this summer. David wants to join a big Premier League team. That came from Tuto Juve, though, who unfortunately are not the most credible source, in my opinion, via court offside. I'd want to see way more credibility regarding David. Apparently, he does want a high signing on fee and potentially high wages, which might be a bit of a deal breaker. That felt a little bit potentially agent talk, linking him with United to try and get interest or get like higher wages. We need to kind of bear that in mind as well when it comes to Jonathan David. Personally, I know some of you in the comments have been mentioning about David coming in. I like Jonathan David. I think he's a good goal scorer, and I would definitely kind of take him in as a rotation option, not as your number one kind of target up front, but would be a really interesting option. But I would want to wait for a lot more credibility. So I would say take that with a pinch of salt for now. I'm keeping my eye on it for you. I'll bring you any updates if they come out, but let me know what you think about that in the comments. And then the final story I've got for you is regarding Jadon Sancho. So Manchester United have been clear. They do not want Jadon Sancho back in their squad. That came from Fabrizio Romano. I did bring you, some updates on that yesterday in yesterday's video, but Romano's kind of reiterated that today, saying that United do not want him back. So regardless of whether Chelsea do sign him, which Romano was saying they're still wanting to do, even if they did terminate the, the buyback or the deal with the obligation to buy with Chelsea, probably United still wouldn't want him back anyway. So let's just hope that goes through, because I don't think anyone can be doing with another Sancho saga in the summer. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Let me know what you think about all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. See you in the next one.